Here's a question that I've been getting a lot lately, and this is something that's becoming harder and harder to answer because all of a sudden there are all these different competitors to ChatGPT, and people are thinking, well, if I am going to subscribe to an AI, I don't want to subscribe to a whole bunch of different AIs because it would sort of end up being like the streaming wars, where everybody started out just having Netflix, and then all of a sudden this show would pop up on Disney Plus randomly, and then Apple introduced its own streaming, and then all of a sudden like Paramount had some streaming service that you absolutely needed to use, and then there was Amazon Prime. All of a sudden you're paying like way more than you were paying in a cable bill before you cut the cord. And the same thing is happening with artificial intelligence. It used to just be a very obvious choice. ChatGPT was basically the best AI, and for $20 a month you could have almost all the access that you wanted to it. But now ChatGPT is still extremely good, but I don't know if it's necessarily the best in all cases all the time. And there's a lot of sort of times when it might not actually be the right answer for you. So let's talk about a couple different options that you might want to think about. The first one, okay, obviously is ChatGPT. And most people, I still think that most people most of the time are gonna do fine just having the paid version of ChatGPT because it's a really good AI model. And you have the GPTs. I'm a really, like you can't see me, I need a refresh. I'm a heavy user of the GPTs because they just let you do a lot of things, especially like you can keep one sort of AI agent, if you want to call it that. It's not really an agent, but it kind of works like an agent. So you can do the same task over and over and over again. So if you're trying to become more productive, it's a really good tool because that productivity comes from not having to rewrite a bunch of prompts over and over and over again. So if that's the kind of thing that you're going to use, it's probably still the best option. However, the free version of ChatGPT now is pretty good. You can access just about all of the features. You just have a little bit less access. So if you're not such a heavy user, maybe you want to think about something else. And recently, what I have been playing with a lot is this one here, Claude, by a company called Anthropic. And in a lot of ways, I actually think that Claude is, as an AI, the base like LLM that you're interacting with, a lot of times it's a little bit better. I think that it's actually putting out, I'm enjoying the type of writing that it uses a little bit more than ChatGPT. I think that ChatGPT has become extremely like vanilla sounding in the way that it responds to you. It used to have more personality. Its personality is kind of gone, which in a really weird way makes it less interesting to interact with, and I end up using it a little bit less. And I think that Claude has a more interesting personality, and it's also really, really, really good. It's very, very, very good. I think in some cases, there are all these benchmarks that people talk about, and in some benchmarks, it does better than ChatGPT. I don't think those benchmarks actually tell us anything, but what I do think is that using Claude, I find that a lot of the times I'm liking the responses more, and it's really fast. And it doesn't have GPTs, but it has this feature called artifacts, where it kind of in a side window, let me see if I have one, in a side window, it'll give you some like a block that it's created, and this could be a document, it could be code, it could be I think a chart or a graph, and then you can chat about that sort of block separately. And I think that it's a really useful tool, not quite as good as GPTs, and you can't sort of like decide when it's going to give it to you, but it can be quite useful. So it's $20 a month. So one thing that you could do is ditch the ChatGPT $20 a month plan because you know that you can still use ChatGPT quite a bit. Pay for Claude because with Claude, the free plan, you get like a very limited amount. I'm actually thinking about doing that exact change right now because you get a lot with the free ChatGPT. You don't get that much with Claude. And then there's actually two more options. One of them is Perplexity. And Perplexity is, I think, super good if what you want to do is research primarily. A lot of people are mainly using AIs in order to do research. And it's built specifically to do that. So what it primarily is able to do is give you citations that are really easy to track down. So you can very quickly validate any research that you're doing with Perplexity. The other thing that it does that is really good is it has this new feature called, well, it's actually an old feature, but it's just recently been improved greatly, called Pro, where if you turn it on, it will break a problem down into many different constituent parts, and then it'll give you quick access to what it was thinking about in each of these different parts, so you can more clearly understand how it came to the conclusions that it came to and how it showed you the research that it showed you, which can be really useful if what you have to do is a little bit more rigorous research that you have to explain how you got to your conclusions. The last one, and this one I think is a little bit of a dark horse because nobody knows very much about it, but I think it's super interesting. It's called Poe. And basically the way Poe works is it's not itself, well, it has an AI. It does have its own LLM, but the real reason that most people get it is that you have the ability, I think you can see it over here on my screen, you have the ability to access all of the other LLMs. And originally, I think people, like a year and a half ago, people were really using Poe primarily so that they could compare different chatbots. So you could go in and you could have two chats side by side, and you could say, I think I like the ChatGPT version than the Claude version. And that's fine. You can still do that. It's a useful tool if you need to make sure that you're getting like really good results. But for me, the reason that this is a really interesting possible contender is that you pay Poe a subscription, and then you're able to choose the different LLMs as you need to do different tasks, and you can also test out the other LLMs. So another possible thing that if you're learning how to use AIs and you want to just have like a good understanding of what's out there, it could be a great option for you because then you can go in, you can be like, oh, okay, let's see how it does with ChatGPT 4.0, and here I have Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is it's also got 3.5 Opus, I believe. And so you can use the different versions of, here it is, the Claude 3 Opus, which is like their best model. You can also access the different Gemini models, so you can really quickly get an idea of what model is better at different things. And so if you do a lot of different tasks, if you're doing all kinds of different tasks, and you find that different AIs are better for you in particular situations, Poe could be the way to go. It also has ways to create bots, which are sort of like GPTs a little bit, but it's like they allow you to do much more specific tasks, but you can do things like choose which specific model you're going to be working with. And so it kind of can replace a GPT. However, so as a conclusion, I think that these different options, you can have a different sort of like setup of tools that you're going to use. Most people, I think, still will probably be happy if they're just using ChatGPT, but the people that need to do things that are a little bit more specific or a little bit more broad with many more tasks, they may want to consider dropping the GPT subscription and picking up either Perplexity, Poe, or Claude from Anthropic.